Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the participants and the panelists from whichever part of the world they are joining in. Welcome to the session, Making Cities Water Positive, City Water Balance Plans, Stockholm World Water Week 2021. This session is being hosted by Safe Water Network and USAID under program SEVA, Sustainable Enterprises for Water and Health that promotes safe water access to the urban poor. I am your moderator, Poonam Sevak, Vice President, Program and Partnerships from Safe Water Network. Safe Water Network is an international NGO headquartered in New York with offices in India and Ghana. We work on policy, practice, advisory and alliance building to catalyze the sector for scale up of affordable safe water solutions. We have a very august panel with us, experienced stalwarts who are the national leaders in various portfolios looking after the water supply in India. It's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Vinay Pratap Singh, Director Amrit from Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, the apex policy making government at the central level. This ministry has proposed a $40 billion initiative Urban Jal Jeevan Mission to make water secure. National Mission for Clean Ganga is working on a platform of $3 billion for rejuvenation of River Ganga. Mr. Dana Kishore, the Managing Director from Hyderabad Metropolitan Water Supply, would be shortly joining us. Mr. Dana Kishore is the Chairman and Managing Director. He's the Chairman and Managing Director of the Water Board. Hyderabad is the 6th most populous city in the country, which has a population of over 10 million, spread over 688 kilometers, which supplies water through 9,000 kilometer long pipeline. This is the magnitude of service delivery which is being undertaken. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Anand Rudra, Senior WASH Specialist, USAID. Mr. Anand has over 30 years of experience in WASH in India and Southeast USAID missions. I welcome Mr. Samrat Basak, Director, Urban Water Program at World Resources Institute. Mr. Samrat has worked as a water supply lead not only in India and Africa, but also Southeast Asia. The session format is question and answer. The participants are requested to post their questions in the chat box, which will be taken up by the panelists. As we begin the session, I would request you to see a brief presentation so that we are able to provide the context of the session. Please play the slides. Yeah. Making cities water positive through city water balance plans. India is home to 17% of world population with 4% of world resources. Other statistics which are there, we have more than 50 cities which are million plus cities, and if you look at the water capita per person, the water availability, it is projected to be 1370 cubic meter per person, which makes the country water stressed. Under these challenges, for us to manage the finite resource water becomes very imperative. Next. Challenges of urban water supply are known to all. Whether it is rapid urbanization, skewed distribution of water, vanishing local bodies, or changing forms of water due to increased human intervention, and the threat of climate change. This is leading to a very high cost of water, negative impact on the economy, as well as the well-being of the citizens. Next slide, please. Components of the water assessment. The components of water assessment are built upon comprehensive understanding of the end-to-end water value chain of the city and the projected growth of the city. This includes city profile, water supply, used water management, local water bodies to help us identify the gap assessment and plan for a project. The identification of the project can have various models. For the model to be very effective and efficient, it will depend on the stage of the city, the distribution, the requirement of water, the economic activities within, location, environment, and tradition. Next, please. We present a case study from Hyderabad. This study was undertaken with the Hyderabad Water Board and in 2020 under the USAID program SEVA. We had established a few qualitative and quantitative indicators which were on 8 thematic areas: raw water, piped water supply, wastewater management, stormwater management, water conservation, water governance, policy, and most importantly, tracking. The total score which was identified was 250, and when we studied the various parameters, we came to, next slide please, a graph which looks like this, showing that Hyderabad city is a water positive city. It has a blue index of 8.3, though there are certain areas where more work needs to be done. What were the outcomes from the study? Next slide, please. The key takeaways were that Hyderabad is importing 56% of the water. So local water sustainability measures have to be taken with respect to groundwater recharging. We need to add the value of water through telescopic pricing, rejuvenation of water bodies, and aquifer management is very essential. There is a need for all stakeholder coordination, the users and the discharges to come on the common platform so that resilience can be built. Need for infrastructure development, especially for wastewater, reuse and recycle, and building sustainability measures for climate resilience. Next slide, please. Carefully executed, the city water balance plan aims to help cities progress towards circular economy of water using the concept of one water, so that we are able to bring in the benefits of social equity, reduce vulnerability, overall well-being, fulfillment of water resources, building climate resilience, and environmental sustainability. Thank you very much for being with me through this presentation. At the sites of the World Water Institute, we also plan to launch the toolkit. I am able to see Mr. Dana Kishore, sir. Sir, welcome. I would request all the panelists to join me in launching the e-toolkit, Making Cities Water Positive Through Water Balance Plans. This toolkit provides science-based, evidence-based approach to forecast urban water sufficiency, mitigate risks, and plan. It supports data-driven decision-making through comprehensive monitoring and evaluation dashboards. We dedicate this toolkit to the urban local bodies, water supply practitioners, stakeholders, to use it as a decision support tool to make their cities water positive. It has 7 modules and 29 tools. Thank you very much. We will also release the poster, Making Cities Water Positive. This poster has been made on the announcement and the lines of the Jal Jeevan Mission, where we are working towards the circular economy of water, targeting on the Sustainable Development Goal 6.4, where we want to increase water use efficiency across all the sectors. So we will see that we are targeting on aquifer management, reduction of non-revenue water, increased use of recycled water, and urging industries to meet the water demand, 40% of their water demand through recycled water. Thank you very much for inaugurating the e-toolkit and the poster. I urge everyone to use it. Let us begin the panel discussions. So my first help the 4,000 plus cities in India be water secure? You are muted. Can you hear me? Sir, you are muted. Yes, sir, please.
Okay, I could not get because I think there was some technical glitch. Please ask again.
Yes, sir. Sir, my question to you is integrated urban water management and one water concepts are prevailing since last 3 decades.
Yes.
What is the uniqueness of this Jal Jeevan Mission Urban and how will it
Again. Okay, there is some problem from, I'm not able to hear you fully, but I got the question. I will just tell. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Hello. Okay, I'm audible. Okay.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. Actually, our Jal Jeevan Mission is extension of our ongoing Amrit Mission. Amrit Mission was launched in 2015, covering 500 cities, generally with population above 1 lakh. And in this period of about 6 years, huge progress has been made. And again, the target of providing household tap connection to the extent of 139 lakhs, we have been able to provide 107 lakhs so far. Similarly, the other major component was sewerage, in which against the target of 145 lakhs, we have covered 78 lakhs. Now we are extending this to smaller cities because there was a consistent demand from the smaller cities that this household water supply connections should be provided in those cities also. From several politicians, we have been getting requests. So now we are included all the cities in this. Now the thing is that how the objective will be achieved, because it is true that water sustainability and so many aspects of this water supply have been in progress for last so many decades. So we are going for a multi-pronged strategy to achieve the targets of making cities water secure. One will be that we will be financing or partly funding the infrastructure projects, water supply and sewage sector, and the sharing will be based on certain criteria are there that 100% funds. Likewise, our northeastern and hill states will get 90% funding, and so on and so forth. So one will be providing funds for the projects in water supply sector. Then we are taking a massive IEC campaign. IEC, everybody knows. Through this campaign, we will make the people across the country aware about the requirement of water conservation, requirement of aquifer recharge, rainwater harvesting. So the citizens will be able to take certain steps for this water conservation. That will be the second. And third is that we are going for some reforms by the ULBs for security of water. So on achieving those reforms, the incentive will be given to the ULBs. So funding of projects, IEC, and reform incentive for the reforms related to water conservation. These three things will collectively help us in achieving the target of making the city water secure.
Thank you very much.
I can speak along, but I think that is not required. Any other thing on this our Jal Jeevan Mission? Any other question?
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for the to make the. So thank you very much. My next question.
Thank you so much.
So my next question is to Mr. Dana Kishore. Hyderabad is a rapidly growing urban agglomerate, and it is leading to increased demand.
I'm not able to hear you.
Sorry for the interruption. We are just getting the technical glitch resolved. Sorry.
Hello, Mr. Dana Kishore, can you hear
please,
my question?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, sir. Please. You, sir.
Can you
Dana
repeat
Kishore,
the
sir, did you hear my question?
No, I couldn't get your question. Can you repeat your question, please, Ms. Poonam?
Yes, sir. My question to you was, Hyderabad is a rapidly growing city. It's one of the fastest urban agglomerate. What are the challenges do you face in providing water at that speed, and how are you planning for water security?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to good afternoon to Rajaranjan Mishra sir and all the participants. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for the study last year you've taken up. And incidentally, it's coincidence is that it's also your announcement also has come now because we have been declared as a water plus city by Government of India. We are one of the largest cities to be declared. I'd like to thank MOHA and Rajaranjan and the people who have helped in us. You see, in terms of climate change, we see one hazard for water board for Hyderabad, supply water to the citizens of Hyderabad. That is a drought. Could be one a situation where, because both the rivers where from you get water, you said 56%, we get it from Krishna and Godavari. Both of them are rainfall dependent rivers. So in case of climate change, increased temperature, shift in rainfall patterns, this could hurt us. And it's a huge kind of risk we face, which will result in a drought kind of a thing. First is that we need to improve our groundwater potential. Whatever groundwater tables are there, depleted groundwaters, I think there should be kind of reservoirs for us in case of too much of risk is there on account of continuous droughts. I think we should preserve groundwater without exploiting it. But we have seen from your presentation, you show nearly 44% usage seems to be coming from groundwater, which is a disputable. According to us, it's about 18 to 20%. It needs to, we need to go into details into that. In terms of projects, we have been consistently taking projects. Right now, we are at 602 million gallons per day we are able to bring in, and it's sufficient for us. And as you may be aware, our government has taken up huge irrigation projects, which have been, Hyderabad has been kept in the forefront for water security. Like our Kaleshwaram project, which is a mega project, which uses a sufficient amount of water. The two reservoirs which we have, Mishra sir will be knowing, Himaya Sagar and Usman Sagar, about 70 TMC of water, is next to our city. That water we are always keeping, we don't use that water, very little of that water we use, so that in case of any kind of problems come, suddenly rainfall fails, we'll be able to use that water. But more than that, I think reuse of water is one thing we need to look into this, because in the inter-riparian problems, interstate riparian issues are there. So how much of water, even river water is also available for us. Like this Water Plus Cities, Government of India has announced, we have been using 28% of water as a reuse water we are using. We need to increase it to 100% actually, so that you need not go for additional new projects to bring in more water for a newer population, enlarged population, but we can use this water for reuse water can be utilized for household uses, which is very less now, but it's also cost intensive in the sense that you need to build up a different pipelines to take this water. They have been a little successful in that, but you may be aware, one issue I'd like to tell you, a lot of agricultural lands are dependent upon our water that is released from STPs. Almost 80% of water we release from our STPs is being used for agriculture, but we don't get costs from that because agriculturists don't pay any money to us. So one idea is to how to use this water. Second is how to drought proof our operations so that tomorrow it will not get affected. And more than this, climate change impact, how it is going to impact on people. People are not aware of it, blissfully unaware of it. For that, we have taken up a program called Water Leadership and awareness programs. Water is the efficiency of each house is evaluated. Like last year, we have evaluated 1 lakh houses, how many have rainwater harvesting structures, and then how many of them are wasting water. So we give them an emblem is pasted on their doorstep. A rating is given, on a four ratings are given. If somebody is bad, they get a red water drop. If somebody is good, they get a green water drop. This kind of awareness is being created. But ultimately, we need to take this scenario to the people so that to make them aware of these things.
Thank you very much, sir. So summing up, what we hear from Danakishore sir is that Hyderabad city and the state of Telangana have taken long strides in understanding water budgeting. First of all, they are trying to understand the water availability, water budgeting. We are very pleased to say that 8 meters of water table has increased this year through the groundwater management. Positive measures are being taken for increasing the water use efficiency, and moreover, Hyderabad city and the municipality has taken great care to make it a people's movement by giving them water rating, whether they are depending upon their usages in their house, whether they are green, yellow or red. So this is a great people's movement and it's a very positive aspect of it. We completely understand that Hyderabad being in the needs positive measures for climate resilience, especially drought preparations. So I'll move further to Mr. Rajiv Ranjan Mishra. Good afternoon, sir. And my question to you would be, sir, the Ganga basin is home to 43% of India. We have more than 700 towns in this basin, of which 100 are already on the river bank. What are the measures that you are taking for the rejuvenation and restoration of Ganga? And how are you monitoring the water?
Thank you, Poonamji, and greetings to all the panelists. And it's very nice to see some old friends, and I'm quite sure among the other participants also, several of them are our old colleagues or present colleagues. You have very rightly pointed out about River Ganga, and I don't have to really talk much about its importance. Being national river, hosting almost 50% of India's population, and when we say India's population, we all know how huge it is. And from point of view the food security also, the plains of Ganga Basin are perhaps most fertile and highly intensively cultivated plains, very rich in biodiversity. So I think when we talk of rejuvenating a river like this, the challenge before us was to look at in a very integrated perspective. And that's why I'm very happy to be part of this conversation of water plus cities. Because in the long run, whether it is Ganga or any river, you have to rejuvenate. You have to basically rejuvenate your cities and villages, because there is no fault with any river. Rivers are all okay. Rivers are by nature clean. But the habitations along the river, we have to keep them clean. We have to keep them in a healthy condition. That's why I think when we started this mission, pollution abatement is a major area. But apart from that, we also have focused about the improving ecology, improving flow of the river, and also connecting people with the river. I will just like to tell you a little more about the urban system, because today's topic is on urban. So at one level, we are looking at the integrated river basin management. At the other level, we have really focused upon the rejuvenation of river in the urban areas. It's important to see that the rivers also contribute some flow to the river, or do not just keep on taking away all the water and only give back the wastewater. In one of the meeting of National Ganga Council, Honorable Prime Minister very rightly told us to look at what can cities do to the river. And what he said that learning from the experiments in Ganga, can we really expand this mission to all the rivers in the country? And that's what actually we are working with Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs very closely, and also with the state. So when we started looking at the pollution thing, some new things which I told very briefly, I will say, we wanted to make it sustainable. So I think construction is not enough. Constructing of STP, you have to make them run for at least 15-year long-term operation and maintenance they built into the program. We also brought hybrid annuity mode of PPP into this, so that performance orientation comes. And I'm very happy because apart from Ganga Basin, I think Mr. Dhankishore is here, and great goes to Telangana government and him for implementing this model, hybrid annuity based model, in Hyderabad also, in one of the large programs he has implemented. So I think the idea is going ahead. We are also trying to improve governance, because as you saw in your presentation, water changes shape. And then the governance of the water at the city level, you have to see, you have to look at all this shape, right from raw water to black water and in between several things. And Mr. Dhankishore very rightly said, you have to also look at how much can be reused, because ultimately city-based circular economy is important. And what you are talking, we also formulated it like urban river management plan, integrating these river and water sensitive urban design, so that I think you will start looking at overall water cycle in a city, and look at the entire water cycle and work in such a way that entire water cycle and your built environment and landscape, water bodies, all of them become a kind of compatible with each other. So I think that has been our approach as far as urban areas are concerned. And then a lot of positive things are happening. You asked about Jal Jeevan Mission Urban. Several new things are happening there, and entire water sector, because Jal Shakti Ministry was brought. So there is now integration, not only Ganga, all other rivers. I am now looking after conservation of other rivers also. Similarly, rural, urban, all put together, the kind of focus on water sector has come, and all the various forms of water which you are saying, and this toolkit will be really very fascinating thing to guide the urban local bodies, because what is perhaps most important is collaboration and capacity building at the urban local body level. And I think such kind of discourse will be really very useful. And before I close at this stage, the river front is very important, and not only river. I mean, he talked about lakes in Hyderabad. The lake front is very important, because they will also serve the need of public place for the area and also keep them protected. And it also will actually connect people with the river or with the water body, so that they become partner in conserving them.
Thank you very much, sir. This is indeed very insightful, and it will be very helpful for all the cities to adopt this model and replicate as we go further. My next question is to Mr. Anand Rudra. So what role does the USAID play in assisting the government of India in WASH specifically?
Yeah, am I audible, Poonamji?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yeah, thank you so much, Poonamji, and a warm greetings to all the panel members on this panel today in Stockholm, and a big warm welcome from India to all the global participants who have logged in from various time zones. Poonamji, USAID, as the acronym, I would basically first like to spell it out. It's the United States Agency for International Development. It partners with governments and in host countries. In our case, we'll be focusing on the WASH sector to primarily create healthier urban communities by increasing access to clean water and improve sanitation services. This objective is stated clearly both in the USAID Water and Development Strategy, and I repeat, in the USAID Water and Development Strategy and in the Water for the World Act. By 2022, USAID seeks to provide close to around 15 million people with sustainable access to safe drinking water services and 8 million people with sustainable access to sanitation services across the globe. The numbers are a little weak in front of the statistics staring at us from India, but this is the global kind of the benchmark which USAID is looking at. USAID again focuses on 4 key result areas for their WASH interventions. Number 1, strengthening WASH governance and financing, exactly what my esteemed panelists mentioned before me, Rajiv sir, Mr. Singh, and Mr. Tanak Kishore. Second point, increasing sustainable access and use of sanitation and practice of key hygiene behaviors. Third, increasing sustainable access to safe drinking water. Fourth, improving management of water resources. So these are 4 key result areas which USAID basically pursues for WASH interventions through engagement with host country missions. In India, coming to the point what Poonamji you raised for USAID's engagement in this country, we are working very closely with the Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, which is AMRUT, as well as Swachh Bharat Mission Urban. And India has covered substantial grounds in terms of becoming open defecation free, as well as increased coverage of wastewater, which basically includes both sewerage and septage network and water supply. The USAID WASH interventions, Poonamji, in India aligns with USAID's global principle of self-reliance of countries. Presently, the primary source of financing in the sector is through government allocation, either capital spend or revenues, and bank finance for capex and working capitals, which falls short of the requirements for the sector. In other words, there is a bigger need than what basically we are providing the supply and the support for. Hence, USAID programmatic support in India is focused on water, fecal sludge, wastewater regulations, innovative procurement and financing mechanisms, and an underlining enablement of including private sector in the ecosystem. Thank you so much, Poonamji, for inviting USAID into this esteemed panel. Look forward to basically being part of this discussion further.
Thank you very much, Anandji. Definitely the programmatic support and the lighthouse projects supported by USAID are very helpful. And that's quite a gamut of functionality which is being supported under WASH. So thank you very much. My question to Mr. Samrat Basak from World Resources Institute is, Mr. Basak, what techniques do you adopt to make cities water positive? And here I am looking at the innovative solutions and the data tracking systems, remote sensing that you apply.
Thank you, Poonamji, for your question. Am I audible clearly? Okay. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this interesting workshop, and also greetings to all the esteemed panelists here, as well as the participants who are joining this session across the globe. To answer your question, we have within WRI water program around a five-pronged strategy for making cities water resilient. or water secure, whatever way you mention. So the 5 strategies that are primarily around water cycle component. That means what is the natural water cycle and how disruption to it affects the city's water balance, and what sort of projects we should be doing to mitigate such challenges. The second one is the city region component. I mean, when you consider a city's water resource, you cannot just consider city just as a silo. You need to understand the interconnectedness with the larger aquifer or the catchment. And there we work to understand the city region interconnectedness and what sort of challenges, issues, or opportunities that are there. The third one is the equity inclusion aspect. It's a really important for us from a research perspective and implementation perspective, and especially in a COVID world or a post-COVID world, this has become far more important than ever. The fourth and five, there are 2 components. So the fourth one is the innovation component. We do inculcate a lot of innovation, especially around the water, wastewater management, nature-based solution, and then waste management, and so on and so forth. And the fifth one is basically how we can make changes at scale. And so there we look primarily around the capacity building, outreach, and engagement components. Now, if you can give me another 2 minutes, probably, or 1.5 minutes, I will just like to highlight the water cycle component, especially under the current scenario of IPCC Code Red report. And the report has clearly mentioned that there will be intensification of the water cycle. That means we are going to see far more frequent droughts and cloudburst, and none of which helps in achieving the sort of water resilience that we are looking at a city scale. I think there is humongous opportunity or potential exists currently, that how can we forecast such risks? What are some of the quantifiers for such risk, and how that integrates into the current policy making? And I'm sure all the government programs and policies are around some of these uncertainties that has been highlighted by the IPCC report. But WRI is also quite working a lot in that domain. So with that, I would like to finish. I'll be happy to answer any of the questions on these 5 strategies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samrat. Now I open the questions for the panelists. So as we go through their questions, the first question which has come in is for Mr. Dana Kishore. Water efficiency ranking of the household is a very impressive initiative of Hyderabad. Can you please describe it in 2 to 3 more lines for participant understanding?
Thank you, Ms. Poonam. Thanks for the question. In fact, it's a very, very interesting program we have taken up. I had given this presentation at National Conclave in Delhi. There were also a lot of interesting remarks about it. See, we look at this as a leadership crisis is there as far as water as a very, very important component of life is concerned. It is we experts talk about it. People rarely talk about it because they're very busy in their lives. So we named this program Water Leadership and Conservation. How to, we have made something like a 14,000 volunteers have come. We launched an app on this. So what they do, they assess their entire street, like how many households are there, how many of them are able wasting water when we give water, how many of them are able to conserve water, and then how many of them have rainwater harvesting structures. So we had given a branding, we call this a water audit of each household. And people have actually participated over a period of 3 months. We noticed that where water wastage used to be there, like we give water in the morning and people use it, irresponsibly, the water wastage happens. That has completely come down. Only what it shows is that you need to bring in people's leadership among the households so that they can take this initiative and they can start conserving. It's not necessary that every time government officials have to go or non-governmental organizations have to keep telling them. No, I think there is a movement is required, because if we ask any child or any adult for that matter, in the city of Hyderabad or in Delhi somewhere, where from water is coming, they said they're coming from tap. Nala se pani aa raha hai. But they don't know that pani is coming from Yamuna or Krishna or Godavari. They are not aware of it. There should be made costs of water, how much of subsidy is being given. Nearly about 70% subsidy, pass on water actually. If these things are made available, techniques are made available, they're able to participate in it. This is a very good program. If you want, I can share a PPT on that.
Thank you very much, sir. There is another question, and this question is for Mr. Rajiv Ranjan Mishra. So the question is there digital monitoring about the water quality of River Ganga? If yes, how?
See, monitoring is very important because without monitoring, you will not be able to really assess what exactly is going on. So what we did, we have got all along River Ganga, we have manual monitoring stations measuring the different parameters of water quality. But in addition, what we has also started, I think for the first time in the country, we have started real-time water quality monitoring stations. So I think more than half have already been installed and they have started working. This being a new concept, we are also trying to stabilize it and have a kind of good data audit. And then we expect that by this year end, we will be also able to do that. So I think this is a kind of river water quality monitoring. But whatever we are doing, how the STPs are functioning, as I told you, some institutionally, we are trying to make it performance oriented because private investment is, they will be careful. At the same time, technology can help us in online monitoring of STP inflow and outflow parameters by use of SCADA and other things. So all the new STPs, we are going with that, but the older STP also we are trying to, even if it is not funded by us in that area, we are trying to upgrade. So that monitoring is important. Monitoring of industry perhaps becomes a very, very critical component in ensuring good quality of water bodies and rivers. So I think online effluent quality monitoring is being emphasized. And we are also engaging third-party expert institutions for taking up annual inspection, etc., because to cut down a kind of bias and other things. So I think several technical components are being done. And we are also trying to educate, especially the students, about certain water quality issues. What Nandan Kishore was telling is very right, because you have to sensitize them. Sometimes also tell that this is the kind of quality, and then we, like air quality, people know that today what is our air quality, whether it is good, bad, and all that. Similar kind of concern, similar kind of awareness has to come about the city water quality and other water quality also.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Mr. Vinay Pratap Singh, sir, this is a question for you. How will the smaller cities be supported under the Jal Jeevan Mission Urban to make them water secure? Sir, you are muted.
Okay. Am I audible now? Okay. So by smaller cities, what I can make up, these are the cities having population below 1 lakh. Because rough estimate is that out of about 4,400 ULBs or cities in the country, nearly 500 have population above 1 lakh. And so 3,900 should be roughly having population below 1 lakh. So as I told earlier also that the projects in the infrastructure, water supply, sewerage will be funded by our ministry through central assistance. And these smaller cities which are having population below 1 lakh, they will get 50% of the project cost as central share. So this is relatively bigger quantum of central assistance. For the bigger cities, the quantum will be less. So this quantum will be able to help the smaller cities in carrying out these projects and providing the household water tap connection. That is the biggest objective of our Jal Jeevan Mission. And along with that, we are having smaller components of IEC, then Payajal Sarvekshan, and reforms are there. It will encourage the ULBs to undertake those reforms in water safety, increasing NRW, and then meeting 20% of the city water demand at state level through recycle of wastewater. So that's how we are envisaging, we are anticipating that the targets of the mission will be met in the smaller cities.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. There is another question for you. And you have already partly answered that. What are the key components in the mission beyond infrastructure. I did hear you say the components with respect to training, with respect to IEC, the outcome reforms. The question here is, what is the role for NGOs, community-based organization here that this program is about women-led management? What are the key components and features to this program here?
Okay, women, like engagement of women, we want to bring in for feedback. Because as we know that still, although women have come up largely, but in the smaller cities, women are mostly at home. And they are the best people to tell about the service delivery. So we would like to engage the women to get the feedback on quality, quantity, regularity of the water supply. And other than that, we are planning a huge capacity building. The program is also there in our A&OE component. A&OE stands for administrative and other expenses, because when we are running such a huge mission, a lot of administrative and other expenses are required. And under that, we are having this IEC and this capacity building. So initially, we would like to train the women how they can give us feedback. And subsequently, they will be able to provide that kind of. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, anything
Thank
else?
you, sir. Mr. Samrat, this is, thank you very much, sir. Mr. Samrat, this is the question for you. What's the need and role of geospatial data analysis in developing the city water balance plan, as you have mentioned, using the water cycle components?
Sure. Thanks, Poonamji. It's a tough question to answer, but I'll surely try. So basically, I mean, two way. Globally, the water data has been collected. One is through the primary measurement. That means you are physically doing all the measurements using various instruments or other monitoring instruments or so. It's because it's a physical way of collecting data. It's a very cost exhaustive. It requires a lot of manpower, as well as also prone to human error certain times. Now there is also, over the last decade or so, there has been tremendous advancement or improvement happened on the geospatial data analytics. There are multiple satellite has been launched by India itself, and also true for the globally other countries. There are multiple very innovative types of data set which are freely available currently globally as well as in India. There is quite a number of young professionals who are doing a lot of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data analytics sort of analysis to bring out new innovative data set. Now in WRI, what we are doing is also using some of those very advanced geospatial data analytics to develop various maps and data set forecasting models, hydraulic models to actually answer some of the burning questions around the water risk forecasting and mitigation because of the urbanization as well as the climate change. I think currently, while there are multiple work happening, I would like to mention just one project which is funded by Microsoft and BlackRock, and where we are trying to do is that forecasting reservoir water availability in 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days in advance. And why we are doing is that the moment we can simulate such model, it will be very easy for the decision makers to actually plan how the water entitlement happen from such reservoirs to multiple users. And city is of course one of the main users. And probably in say another 6 months time, we have a running prototype model to actually develop that sort of geospatial analytics for the reservoirs.
Thank you very much. Mr. Anand, there are two questions for you here. First is, going forward, how does USAID see supporting Indian government beyond the support which it has already given? And the second question is, we heard Mr. Vinay Pratap Singh sir lay out the various components of the mission, especially with respect to NGOs and CBOs getting into the work. Do you have any plans about supporting these programs and how?
Yeah, thank you so much, Poonamji. Voice is clear again?
Yes, yes, it's clear.
Yeah, going forward, this is something that we are looking at, not just futuristic, but the fact is this is something that we are already doing. And I think currently the urban wash ecosystem in India, as we understand, has been closely supported by a network of development partners, I think there's a big role of development partners such as USAID and similar organizations to drive sustainability of programmatic outcomes at national, state, and city level. Development partners have been closely engaged in policy support, as we understand, behavior change communications, and we see a lot around us, capacity building, strengthening, digital enablement, scaling up of innovative wash technology options, not just through pilots, but also facilitating increased private sector to basically invest in these kind of engagements. Going ahead, if I can sum it up, Poonamji, we are looking at development partners such as USA to basically focus on some key four elements. Number one, drive cross-sectoral partnerships. I heard that from Rajiv sir and others also, that one cannot just work alone. It has to be work with each other. We have to hone in all our strengths together, and it just cannot be in silos. So while designing wash solutions, it is very necessary to consider a lot of factors, including local culture, gender literacy, technology, and cross-sectoral partnerships in WASH actually have resulted in developing more robust and context-specific solutions rather than having a solution which does not meet the need, what is there on the ground. And some instances have been, that I can quote out of my mind, are what I think UNICEF and WHO have done together in partnership with government for healthcare facilities and water utilities, to improve WASH situation in health facilities. There's a growing collaboration also between water and digital industries, which has contributed to innovations such as smart water metering, electronic billing, electronic payment systems, and similar things where digital has found its way in basically making things transparent, more active, and more, like real time. And the third point is the long-term and the inclusive partnerships between exactly what you pointed out, Poonamji, civil society organizations, research institutions, and local governments in the social sector have a role in working together to elevate not just the voices of the women and the gender issues, but the underrepresented groups in the WASH sector. Moving on beyond the cross-sectoral, I think, and I have mentioned that my earlier mention, is the strengthening of the private sector engagement. Given the importance of engaging private sector for providing sustainable financing, as well as allocated government funds, which are limited, we feel improving innovations and efficiencies, as well as enabling risk sharing. Again, I repeat, enabling risk sharing between public and private sector entities, we feel shall continue to be a focus area for all the development partners in the urban WASH space. Along with sustainable business, it will bring importance to nurturing the startup ecosystem. There are a lot of things where, you need handholding of things which are yet to start off or which have the proof of the concept thing in mind. I think that's very key. And this is the support that perhaps will help in doing that in WASH by setting up incubators, startups, innovation laboratories, accelerating access to market for technologies through targeting incentives for WASH enterprises. Moving on, I touched base upon cross-sectoral private sector, digital systems. This is very key and this is important. I just can't stress it enough. What I've seen in the last decade, that digital has found a place which I feel one cannot move away from for elements of making it transparent and more real-time. And now the element is just not about real-time and targeted, but now it is because of what we have seen over the last 1 year. The need of the ecosystem, of the environment, what COVID and other things have brought it. digital systems are actually like a lifetime support system for us. It has made things which are people-centric. It has basically been a helpful tool for the governance part, which is very much critical to basically implement a program. Further,
thank you very much. Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you very much. Now we are reaching towards the end of the session. So before I see many questions in the chat box, and I would urge the panelists to reach out to Safe Water Network. We have shared our email ID and we will be very happy to answer, but because of the limitation of the time, we have to stop. But before I stop, I would like each of my panelists to just sum up their core take in one sentence, how each one of you perceive that this step will help make cities water positive. I'll begin with Mr. Rajiv Ranjan, sir.
This is in a very brief what I will like to tell everyone. To make city water positive is absolutely essential, whether you look at climate change impact, and you are going to have more water based upon this climate prediction, but we have to be ready to utilize that to improve water bodies and improve the aquifer recharge. So primarily we have to train ourselves, we have to learn to live with the river, we have to learn to live with the water, respect their integrity and understand their need. So when we build a city, we have to build with nature. We have to be cautious about what we do with ecology. We have to be cautious about what we are doing, whether it's going to be sustainable. So I think if we know that and take community with us, take multiple partners, it's a very, very cross-sectoral work. So the more people join hands, then only we'll be able to achieve. So it's a question of collaboration. It's a question of giving respect to water. I think if we understand that, it will be good for water, it will be good for city.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vinay Pratap Singh, sir, what's your take to make the cities water positive?
What I have come to know that the rainwater that we receive in our country is far, far more than the requirements of the people of the country. So the crux is that if the rainwater that we are receiving can be preserved, can be put into the aquifer, or can be stored whatever way it is possible, then and supported by proper distribution. If all these things can be done, then there will not be any shortage of water. So major three ways that we can do public awareness, rainwater harvesting, and recycle of treated water to the extent possible.
Thank you, sir.
Progressively increase. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Samrat Basak, what's your take?
Sorry, I was in mute. So although everyone has mentioned that there are lots of priority and I completely agree with it, I think the two priorities that that I would like to highlight, considering it's just one sentence. One is from a reactive to proactive mode we have to go, considering the climate change, what sort of risk mitigation, prevention, urbanization that needs to happen, considering climate change as one essential element. And the second is, I think, the participation or engagement of multiple stakeholders, and especially the communities, is very important because the decisions has to be locally led, and water is a context specific issue.
Thank you. Mr. Anand Rudra.
Yeah, thank you, Poonamji. Just one sentence. I think this sums it up also with so many things that I've heard from the esteemed panel. Building sustainable institutional and human resource capabilities through collaboration with various stakeholders. And to sum it up, it's just not the citizens, it's just not the development partners, it is just not the research institutions, but everybody who is in this domain, who cares about it and wants to contribute something about it, and just does not want to do it just for the near future. It has to be for the further future, for the far and the next generation. So I think highlighting again two components, sustainability and collaboration, is key.
Thank you very much. My sincerest thanks to all the panelists. They are the most senior people in the country. Thank you so much for your valuable time. And we have learned a lot in this session. The key which comes out is, basically, if I have to sum up, there are two. One is building the ecosystem collaboratively, cross-sectoral participation. And secondly, aquifer management, and catching the rain, as was told by Mr. VP Singh sir and Mr. Rajiv Ranjan Mishra sir also, that these are the key to sustainability. As we reach towards the end of the panel, I would like to say that the highlights of the session all pointed toward the stakeholder synergy, local action, demand management. They are the key to making our cities water secure. Remote sensing, tracking data, data analytic driven solution, capacity building will help us achieve our goal faster and together. There is a need to bring all the stakeholders, the water users, the water dischargers, the citizens, all on the same platform. And most importantly, conserve the rain which we get. As we close the session, we once again dedicate this toolkit, making cities water positive through city water balance plans, to the municipalities, water practitioners, and all the stakeholders. As we end, I would like to extend my thanks to Stockholm World Water Week 2021 for giving us this platform to speak, and to USAID for the pilot study in Hyderabad, which brought all these highlights. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for
inviting. Thank you, Poonam ji. Thank you, sir.
Namaste, sir. Very grateful to all of you. Thank you, dear participants.